All right, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be joined by Andres Cortes today, a music photographer and director of upcoming documentary Brooklyn is Burning. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and share some information on the project.
Awesome. Well, for people who don't know you, do you want to give like a quick synopsis about who you are, where you came from, how you got into music?
So, do we have time? Okay.
I know, right? Is that like a life story, isn't it?
Everything started a long time ago back in Bogota, Colombia, where I was born. I was playing in a metal band back in the early 90s. And my love for music started like from, I guess, at a very early age, like I guess all of us, everybody who's kind of connected to music, we all kind of start at 10, 12, 13, whatever with that. But I started kind of in music from as a musician at very early age. But then I stopped playing in a band, and then my career started kind of in two areas, in graphic design and filmmaking. And then I moved to New York back in 1998, and it's going to be 22 years ago. And when I moved to New York, I was always going to shows. That was kind of the first thing as a very young music fan. I didn't speak the language. I moved here without speaking a word of English, but with a lot of love for music. So I was always checking the Aquarian or whatever publication and like show, and going to concerts. And at the time, with just my random point and shoot camera, because it was the only thing I kind of was available to me. And every time I was going to shows, I was kind of photographing things and taking pictures. And then suddenly, for some reason, in the kind of 2000s, kind of I stopped going to that many shows. I was very kind of into working advertising, and yes, I was still going to bigger shows, but not to the smaller stuff. But at the time, kind of my love for I started to work more and more in photography, and I started to going back to shows, but more to like local shows and seeing more local bands. And like as any photographer, I started to shoot like for like magazines, publications, and websites, and that one thing led to the other. But at the beginning, I was like many photographers wanted to shoot those kind of bigger bands, was kind of very interested, like, I want to shoot, I don't know, Metallica or whatever. But suddenly I realized that for me I've always been passionate about discovering new music, about looking who's like what's next in music, and that's always going to be my passion. I always like a lot of music from the past, but I'm more passionate about the music for the future and what's the next thing, which band is going to surprise me. So that was kind of 10, like maybe 7 years ago. That was my approach to music photography. It was kind of discovering new bands and new sounds through photography. And I always say that the pictures that I take are the bands that I love and I like, and sometimes could be Nick Cave, and sometimes could be a band that's just starting, and maybe in a few years is going to be really big. So that my love for the photography always started with my love for music, and I know I'm not alone. All music photographers love music, and if you can have a great music conversation, is in the front row of a show, because everybody, if it's not a photographer, it's a journalist or it's a super fan, but we all share one thing, which is the love of music. And I've been a filmmaker for 15 years. That's kind of my day job. It's kind of being a filmmaker. I've written for television, I direct a television series, I do commercial work, and I do a lot of music videos. That's also a lot of work that I do. So with this project, I really wanted to intersect those two things: my love for music, for the local scene, and also my work for my photography work. For me, Brooklyn is Burning is an extension of that photography work. So long story short, that's how it started in Colombia, and moved here, and then I don't know, it was a long story. I hope it answered your question.
There. For sure. But yeah, no, definitely, like I can see the trajectory. A lot of photographers who I know, and myself personally, are in a similar boat where we go to shows because we just want to be around music and around bands that make us excited.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like that's very true to you as well.
Yeah.
Do you think going to all of these shows when you first arrived in America helped you learn the language easier and helped you like learn about the culture more?
Absolutely. Actually, like give me something even more important than the language. Give me friends. Give me a community, and that was the most important thing. Well, I moved here by myself, so it was kind of. I guess I was working at the time in advertising, but yeah, I was just by myself. So yeah, it helped me kind of meet people, find friends with common interests. So and then there was no language requirement in that mosh pit. You know what I mean? And if I failed, someone was gonna grab me. You know, so that to me is always beautiful in a pit or in a concert. I've been in situations where with my camera and then the camera goes whoa to the air, and then it could be in the craziest show. The pit opens and it helps with the camera, and once I'm safe, the madness continues. But that's a beautiful thing. Or someone falls, or someone and that camaraderie, it is really beautiful of shows and of music, and that's something that to me was kind of my home. Like going to those shows was filled in a place that I felt was my real home and where I really belong.
Yeah, and specifically Brooklyn and New York in general.
Mm-hmm.
In the different neighborhoods, there are so many different communities of those musical people. And you're like, oh, in this part of Brooklyn, we have these bands and this type of music in this community. And then, oh, maybe in the Lower East Side, we have these bands where they hang out and they play music in this kind of community. And it's cool to see all the different like types of people who get kind of like congregate together because of vicinity, but also a shared love for like a type of music. And, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's one of for me the trails to tell this story. When I grew up even when I moved to New York, like music was very divided. Like if you're into goth, you just go to that type of show. If you're into industrial, if you go to metal, even if you're death metal, thrash metal, heavy metal, they're like subgenres of subcultures and sub-tribes of people. They don't cross paths. If you like this band, you cannot like this one, and if you like Interpol, you cannot like Slayer, you cannot like, I mean, it's crazy, but something that I feel that now we have, especially in Brooklyn, is those bands kind of, the audience is connecting to them in many different styles and genres. So that was one of the drivers that for me to tell this story. It was fascinating, but for the first time I didn't need to have a group of friends that they were only into metal and the group of friends that were only into indie music, which I have them, you know. The ones that are especially my age. My metal friends, they only listen to metal. They don't like anything else. They might listen to Nick Cave, but that's pretty much it. In my group of friends that listen to indie music, they don't get out. And I have a group of friends who listen to U2, which I don't do that. Anyhow, that's a band.
Yeah, no, I know. I feel like that's still like in general is in the general music world, it's kind of a stigma. Like, oh well, if you like that band, I don't understand how you can also like that band, or I don't know why you like that band. Like, shouldn't like that band, like this band. But what you said about here, especially Brooklyn, so many different musicians, just because they're musicians, like build each other up and build each other's shows, no matter what genre. Like, people could be in a band that's kind of more pop, but also have friends that's in a band that's more goth, and then they'll go to each other's shows because they're friends, because they make music.
Yeah, exactly. And that is a really a real common thread. And that's cool of music. And musicians are more like usually open-minded from that perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's mainly why the scene, I mean, personally, maybe you think differently, but why the scene in Brooklyn is so unique and special, because most of them are made up of people who are also musicians, and they support each other. And
it is like an ecosystem. Like everybody, like musicians work in bars. They might be the bartender or some engineer or some, you know, it is. Brooklyn especially is an ecosystem. Like everybody is connected in some way to the venues, to the other bands, and if this drummer is not available, it is, and that's something really cool.
Yeah. So how did the idea for the documentary come about? When did you decide that you wanted to work on this?
Mm-hmm. So basically, as I mentioned, I had like these two lives, my life as a filmmaker and my life as a photographer. And sometimes those two lives collide when I'm doing a music video, for example, but many times I'm just or doing something for television and that does not connect to music. And when I'm doing the photography thing, sometimes it's not connected to filmmaking. And over the past, I guess, 3 years, I started to see that common thread in New York. For me, it was very cool to see that like the shows of the local bands were starting to sell out. Like I remember for the first time I saw Bambara was in Union Pool a couple of years ago, and it was like just 3 people in front of them. And I'm sorry, that was the first time I saw Bambara. The last time I saw Bambara, they sold out Rough Trade. So and that is really cool to see a band for the first time in front of 3 people, and then they're selling out. And then I started to see that common thread in many local bands, like Bodega was selling out shows, Surfboard was selling out shows, and there's so many interesting bands in bands that are also very diverse. A lot of female-fronted bands, African American, non-binary, gay, immigrants, maybe Hispanic, Croatian. So. And to me, it was when I started to see there was a scene that was more inclusive and that was more united, while America was completely divided. So for me, that was kind of the thesis of the story. That's when I started to see, oh, bands are angry, shows are selling out. People is responding to local bands, and they're going to the shows, and everybody's pissed off because of what's happening in Washington. So while America, America's been divided always, but never, or at least in the past 22 years that I've been a witness of living in this country, I never seen a country so divided. So for me, it was very interesting. While this country was so divided, the local scene was so united against that common enemy. Which is hate, the politics of hate that we get from Washington. That rhetoric of hate and division was kind of our fuel to create a local scene, in my opinion. So that was the moment for me, oh, there's a story here. And that was very important. That was kind of the starting point. Because when you do a film, you need a kind of a drama, a narrative arc, or like every film that we like, it goes to peaks and valleys. Our main character goes through a journey, and then he wins, he loses, and then there's a moment that we think is gonna die, and then at the end, our character, I don't know, ends in a good place or in a bad place. We don't know. But there's a drama, there's a journey. So for me to tell the story as a filmmaker, I needed that journey. So I felt that this local scene was providing that journey. And for me as an immigrant, I felt that that scene was welcoming me and was welcoming all these other types of people without any judgment. So that to me, it was the idea for a film. And I always said, this is not a music film. This is a political film in the environment of music. My message is completely political, and it's a personal one. And because I have a perspective on this situation, I, like many people, have been also a victim of this type of situations. So I want to make this film as a statement, as a voice for those communities that might not be heard all the time, but I think it is an important story that can teach us many things. So that was kind of the moment of the idea, and why I decided, oh, there's a narrative arc here, there's a thread, there's a thesis. It's not just a bunch of bands playing any random music. And I always put me as an example. When I used to live in Colombia and I had a band, if you do a documentary of my band, it would be the most boring documentary in the world, because we were just a bunch of high school kids singing about like nothing. It was just yeah, world war, but we're not living anything. Yeah, of course, Colombia was in a civil war, but our band didn't have any bigger drama or a bigger a bigger situation. But I feel now the stakes are very high for 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 the local bands and for this country. I think we're in a very crazy situation. So that was the kind of the beginning of the story and one of the main reasons I wanted to do this film.
And did you start working on this film before all of the like unjust that's been going on right now specifically, and the pandemic and everything that's kind of turned it even more into unrest than before?
Yes, I started to work in the film a year ago. Was when I started kind of with the idea, writing proposals, writing the scripts, reaching out to bands, friends, and different people to see what they think about the idea. And one of the persons that was very supportive was Sean, the drummer of Surfboard. And when I discussed the idea with him, he was the one like, "What are you waiting here? Like, let's do it." It was like that. So that was kind of the moments that was like when I shared also with Nelson from Stada. It was one of the first persons that I also shared it. It was also very supportive of like, this is a very important story. I want to be part of it, and when I kind of got that support from the local bands, was the moment where we're like, yeah, let's go and do it.
And did you have kind of a different idea of what the film was going to be before 2020 happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, our idea was a more naive idea, let me tell you, which is we shot the phase one, which is what you have in the teaser. We have obviously a lot of information there, but the reason we started to shoot phase one was because the Globe was closing. So I wanted to capture some of that. So we went there, we captured some of their shows, and then I planned these two big shows with Dream Crusher and Surfboard. And everything happened kind of in the same period of like 2 weeks or so. And the idea was to shoot that, edit a teaser, and try to look for investors or trying to pre-sell the project. Usually in filmmaking and television or documentaries, sometimes you shoot something and then you talk to, I don't know, the Netflixes, Amazons of the world, of those companies who are the ones that are going to give you, okay, we like it, take the money and continue doing. And that was our plan, and our plan was to continue shooting this summer. But then COVID happened. So it was like, okay, should we wait on this and try to get meetings? But I've done this type of projects before, and usually it takes from 1 year to 2 years to first meeting until someone buys it. So I said, I think this story, for me, the urgency of the story is that it was happening right now. That was when COVID happened. I felt that, wow, venues are closing, artists are leaving. The many artists I was talking to, oh no, I'm leaving New York, I'm now in LA, I'm now here, I'm now with my parents, because and venues are starting to close and things are just happening. So for me, it was like, damn it, I need to do this thing right now. And the way I wanted to do it, I instead of just going and chasing people with one camera and do it randomly, so let's try to do it properly, but continue shooting through COVID. And at the same time, help the artist with his film. At the same time, pay them for their time on camera. And at the same time, all these type of things that for me was very important to do also with the film. So I was talking before the narrative arcs of the films, that the peaks and valleys. This is the ultimate narrative arc. The story might end now. If there's no concerts in 1 year, I don't understand how people that owns a venue can pay the rent and the electricity and for 1 year. I'm sure they got small business money for like 3 months or 6 months or grants or things, but that doesn't last for 1 year or 2 years. So for me, the reason I really wanted to do this right now, and we started the Kickstarter campaign, was because I feel that the story is like water in your hand that is just gonna fall and it's gonna go and it's gonna live. And then when we have the money and IORI, we're not gonna have a story. We're just gonna have, oh yeah, remember back in 2020, the scene in Brooklyn was super cool, and we tell the story from a different perspective. So yes, it changed drastically, and now we're kind of in the middle, kind of on our act number 3, and we have no idea what's going to happen with our heroes, which are those musicians and venue owners. Are they going to survive? Are they going to leave New York? Have no idea. But to me, to document this moment is very important to the story. So that's the reason it really, to answer the question, yes, it really changed. And it's going to be kind of the ultimate kind of, hopefully we will end the film when things go back to normal in a fantastic show and we all be crowd surfing and it's going to be a moment of happiness, but maybe not. And I have no idea. So that's the reason it changed radically, but I really want to continue documenting the story right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's insane, like how different the scene is going to be after this, and you don't even know what it's going to be like. But to be able to tell the story from going from this community of people and how they work together and how they have the same values and kind of like uplifting them, and then have this like wrench thrown into their path. And well, now we have to tell the story about how they got through it and if they got through it. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been able to do any filming during this time at all, or no?
No. That is the objective for the Kickstarter campaign, to be able to do that part properly. We started the project with high production standards, so we want to continue with those production standards, also to be able to that the project gets watched. When you put one of these projects in one of the networks or whatever, they always ask, is it in 4K? It isn't. So those kind of things that you don't think about, but you need all those checkboxes. So we want to make sure we continue doing something that, and I'm also a photographer, and I want this to look pretty, and I want to tell us, the most important part is the story. I want to tell the story, but I want us to tell a story that looks interesting and stylized, and it makes sense with the music. For me, I really want to shoot every kind of artist or show or performance, if we get to shoot performances, like something that makes sense with that art and with a visual style that makes sense with that artist. In this project, we want to make sure everything we shoot is at the service of the music, and it does justice to the style of music. If you're seeing a noise band, yeah, we're not going to turn on all the lights and have a person. It just doesn't make any sense. So it might be completely pitch black, and we have to light in a way that looks interesting for that artist. And the same way we shot Surfboard with all those cameras, because I knew that was going to be madness. So that's the reason I even put a camera in the ceiling. So because I knew that was gonna be able to capture that fun part of a surfboard show. Yeah, it is important that you produce something that is at the service of that music style and that artist.
And I think the musicians have to thank you for thinking about these things, because not everyone would. And because you have both that love for music and that photographer's eye, you're like, well, I need to think about this, because that's like going to be important to them. And that's really nice to have. Thank you
so much. Thank you for saying that. I think it's important that it needs to make sense with their music. I would say the same approach when you do a music video. It needs to make sense with the artist that you're working with.
For sure. And yeah, you mentioned the Kickstarter. So when did that start, and what's your goal, and how long do you have to meet that goal?
We started like a week ago. We still have more than 2 weeks left. And we are a third funded. We're like getting to $10,000, and we need $30,000. So that's kind of our goal. So we're in the third of a campaign. We got a third of money. So we're kind of there, step by step. And something that we got up, that I actually, because in my opinion, beyond the money, if we get the money, we're gonna make the project no matter what. If it doesn't happen with the Kickstarter, we'll do it in some other way. And we'll figure out. And the objective obviously is to do it with the Kickstarter, because that's the idea, to continue doing it right now, instead of waiting to look for investors, and those things that always take time. But for us, it was very important to be able to get to start immediately with those funds. So that to me was crucial and important about starting this campaign. So that's kind of the main objective.
For sure. Hopefully you'll be able to reach that, because I know I want to see this on Netflix one day.
hopefully, yeah. No, we're gonna do it in any way. I think this is a story that has to be told, and I've been documenting this scene for a long time. I feel that it is a story that is, I feel, that is very personal to me, because many of the artists are friends of mine, and I feel that their stories are very important, and I want those stories to be heard and to be told. And that something that we receive, like, no matter if we get $1 million or $100 more, the support that we receive from the community is really humbling. So it's been incredible, all the support from the bands, from the venues, from the audience. Like, everybody I've got the coolest direct messages in Instagram, like that, like, literally make me so happy and humble that people cares about this story. Like, people that wanted to, it's like someone that doesn't have the money but wants to help doing whatever. Like, you want me to reach out to publications, what do you want me to do, and I'll help you out. I might not have money for these XYZ rewards, but I want to give you my time. And those things are super important. Or people who's reposting the story, it is. I actually never thought that this could happen. I'm usually not, like, very reserved, and I'm on Instagram. I usually post my thing, and then I don't post for a week, and then I post another one. I'm kind of not the most talkative and out there, but this thing kind of created this kind of bubble effect, and and a lot of people was talking about it in a very nice way, and there are also other people asking questions, and that's also valid, and challenging certain things. So, and why this one is not there, and why this other one, and my answer to everybody: this is just the beginning. This is not the whole documentary. This is just teaser. And I always say, please allow us to tell the story, and that's a story that is at the service of the film title or the characters that they want to portray. Because right now we just have a little part that we shot over like a period of 4 days, and that's just a small capsule of the story we want to tell. So, but we're being kind of, I don't know, pour with like love with this project. So I literally feel humble about it. Feel very happy.
I think that a good test to the fact that how insane of a community that this Brooklyn scene is, because everyone cares so deeply about something like this being made. Mm-hmm. And also, do you think the fact that you put the teaser out kind of now during this time where everyone like has a lot of time to consume things, do you think that kind of helped you a little bit, because people were like, oh, what's this, and like kind of in that world a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. And we were planning to release this more closer to the summer. That was kind of the idea, this to be like in the middle of August, but it just took a lot of time to kind of get all the pieces together. But when I launched the teaser, I put it in my Instagram account, and not in YouTube, not anywhere else. And kind of the first hour, my usual friends, oh, this is cool, or the ones that they already knew I was working on this. But then I remember I stopped looking at my phone for like 2 hours, and I was working or busy or whatever. And then I opened my phone, it was like 1,000 views. It was like this thing exploded like a gazillion of, and that was like, oh, okay, yes, people was waiting for to see that and to see live music. And that's the reason I started the structure with the teaser with remember this was fall 2019, and I see all this kind of sea of people kind of moshing in this place. But yeah, it was kind of I was not expecting this response, and it was literally a little explosion in kind of obviously a small bubble of Instagram friends and acquaintances and bands and and all that stuff. I absolutely want to add that it is important to know that the support for this campaign it is not only for the and I already said it, but just to emphasize the money we're asking, it is to continue our project, but also to in our way I actually feel that I want to help a little bit my community of musicians and venues, and with this project we want to do that as well. So that for us is very, very important, that we it is not only the production of the film, which is you have a crew, which is a cinematographer, producer, sound person, second camera, rental of equipment, all that stuff, but we also want to support musicians and venues, because I feel very passionate about supporting a community. I think that what makes my art is what makes New York great and beautiful and amazing. And that was the reason a kid like me from Colombia decided to move to New York, and I made all my professional life in New York was because of that, because of art. I really want to experience this. So I don't want this to be gone. I really want some other kid from maybe or from New York or from our city or from our country when say, I really would love to move there and experience that, or go on vacations or whatever. But living the art scene in New York, it could be just the art or music or any type of music. It could be into avant-garde jazz or into metal or into indie music or into paintings or into sculpture or installations. But what this city has to offer is what makes it unique. And I feel that I don't want the music side of this city to fall apart, or at least the little part that I was so exposed to. I'm sure if this thing completely collapses, something is going to happen in a few years, because New York always comes back. And but I just don't want to see this part lost. I thought it was a very beautiful and unique moment in time. So that is kind of the reason we're trying to do this, and we reach out to our community to help us out. So that's my kind of last thing I want to say. That's kind of our reason to make this film. It is not only to make a film, but it's also a way to continue the story and support this community, and maybe in a few years we'll look back at this and we'll look at it with a smile and remember this hard time as just one of the many obstacles that we had to go through to make it to the next level.
Yeah, that made me feel a lot of things. As well as the teaser made me feel a lot of things. We have a lot of music people and music lovers watching this, and I really hope that they all will go support this Kickstarter. We will have that linked below. There's only a short time left, so help out this amazing project. And we thank you. And if you haven't seen the teaser yet, stick around and we're going to show it at the end.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your support and help with this project.
Of course.
It's a very sad comedy, is what I think about just world government, you know. But, you know, like playing music, it is a political act.
When the world was new, just made for two, we met by a garden.
I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas.
When the world
Wichita was really important because it was a place for me to get the fuck out of.
I sold all my shit in Austin, like I sold everything I had and I came up here with a suitcase to join a shitty band. Because I'm smart.
All the shit that soaked through us definitely comes out in the music that we make. When I was a kid, there were like, Texas had an insane scene. And then a lot of the bands went out west just to get out of Texas because it was super oppressive.
I am a black queer artist in America. And nobody gives a fuck about me. You know what I'm saying? I would define my performances as it sounds like a plane crashing for half an hour or more.
The scene in Brooklyn has evolved. There's so much good stuff that's starting to percolate.
I love that it's like such a huge array. It's like there's a really heavy noise scene, punk scene, more like dreamy, dreamscape, super hard, like rocker. But everyone just plays with each other and supports each other, and I think that's really special.
Our band that has like, you know, a powerful female singer. See the front just like dominated by women. It's a good feeling for me to see that.
Oh, that baby's alright. I was like, where the fuck is all my shit?
I think the current climate in Washington has definitely made people want to have a voice. So much of the art that came out in the first year was so fucking bad because artists were just so broken, except for like punk rock music or something where it's just literally like a straight reaction, like a straight fuck you. The country was kind of founded on slaughter. The reason there's economic superiority is because they basically enslaved other people. A lot of that inherent systemic racism that has been painted over and glossed over has percolated to the surface.
I would describe that audience as like really weird kids that can't find anywhere else to go. And they see themselves in us and they come out because, yeah, there's just a lack of representation. My great-grandmother was a survivor of the Trail of Tears, and she always used to say, this country is cursed because of what it did to its indigenous people. And I think we're finally starting to watch America eat itself.